is the breakfast spread at Willow's Motel. Amazing spread here. I'm about to have my last meal before I head out on the hike. Well, I'm taking my first steps on my section of Vermont. I'm crossing the Hoosick River, what it's called, on this bridge. Construction in the background there. It's 8:50 in the morning on July 26th. The day is beautiful. Feels like it's maybe mid-70s. Fairly low humidity. Couldn't ask for a better start to my trip. Oh, here I am crossing Massachusetts Avenue. And literally, as I did last year, on my last day of the hike, now on my first day, I'm basically walking right past someone's property, or right through someone's property. Before I enter the woods. So, very steep section right here. It's been gradually but steadily uphill since I started the hike, basically, and now it's very steep section here. Well, this is a serious boulder field here, which I did last year. It's the very northernmost point of Massachusetts, pretty much, a couple miles before the Vermont border. Just wanted to give you a taste of it. Just boulders straight up for a bit here. Just wanted to say a brief word. I just ran into a southbounder. He's named Wanderer, and obviously, if you're a southbounder, you've been through the toughest part of the trail already. You've been through the Maine. You've been through the White Mountains and so forth in New Hampshire, and he was quite unhappy with this section, I can tell you that, which surprised me in a little way, just because he's already been through so much navigating to this point. So this gives you an idea how stressful this section is. Well, just a final word on this stretch. I'll be honest, it only took me about 2 minutes to get up here. I went through the whole thing. I'm going to turn now. I'm quite happy to have done that efficiently as I did. I remember it being much, much more challenging and time-consuming last time. Maybe I was just very tired. That was my last day of last year's hike. This is from my daughter, Mesky. She wanted me to skip. I'm skipping. I can't say no to my Mesky. I am actually skipping as I approach the Vermont border. That's what fatherhood will do to you. Well, I am in Vermont. I have crossed the border. It took me 2 hours to go the 4.1 miles from Williamstown to the border. I'm in Vermont. I'm dividing this trip into 4 phases based on towns that I could can stop in and spend the night, resupply food, have a meal, so forth. The first phase will be getting to Bennington, Vermont, which is only 18 miles from my starting point this morning from Williamstown, Mass. I'm not going to do that all in one day, but most of it I'll do today. That's my goal anyway. And then get an early entry into Bennington tomorrow morning. Lovely path here as I'm walking towards the first shelter in a couple miles. Lovely path. Love these ferns. This has been a real nice stretch. Level, only a tiny bit muddy. No problem, no. Well, I may have spoken the second after I said it's not muddy. It really hasn't been muddy. It's really muddy right in front of me. But again, truly this is not a complaint, but it's sort of ironic. It's how muddy it is. So right now I'm just walking over, literally walking on boulders, one after the other, which are put down to deal with this kind of like a stream, basically. Well, I just had an incredible experience with trail magic. I went to filter some water, and my filter's not working. I have no idea why. It's worked perfectly in all my trips prior. It just doesn't want to work. And there was a thru hiker there named Now or Never, and he saw what I was struggling with. He gave me, let me use his filter. And then he further talked about that he will be camping in the same site as me a little later on to ensure that I have some water until I get to Bennington and a Walmart there to get a new filter. So a very unusual and extremely timely and wonderful example of trail magic. Just yards past the turnoff for the Seth Warner shelter. I'm going to keep going to the Congdon shelter. That's my plan. I'm making very good time, going about 2 miles an hour. Should get to Congdon by about 4:35. Crossing power lines, very common on the Appalachian Trail. And you can see the trail is pretty wet here, but again, that stuff varies. You know, it's not a constant mud. So just to point out that the trail now is very kind of what they call a green tunnelish. You can't really, it's sort of a narrow path, you know, and you're kind of crowded in on both sides, obviously, with vegetation and so forth. Very dense. Right now you are basically, it's not even a trail, like a clean, thin trail. You're basically knocking away branches to get along on the trail. Hopefully this won't continue for too long. So here's another set of power lines. Oh, and a nice view. A nice view. First view of the day. At the distant mountains. First view, lovely. We're 9 miles into today's hike. Well, I have to say the last several miles of this trail has featured primarily mud and the claustrophobic sense of a green tunnel with nothing to look at, except for there's one power line I just passed. So the power line literally provided an opening for some views to the mountains in the distance, but this is not something I particularly enjoy, to be honest. So right now, the trail's really, it's sort of like a stream. It's not raining, it's beautiful. It hasn't been raining several days, so this is just the trail right now. It's the way it is. Fortunately, there's enough roots and rocks, if you're careful, to pretty much avoid getting your whole foot in mud. Obviously, you have to go very slowly though. It's a beaver pond. It's the first body of water I've seen today. So I just wanted to share some thoughts about this trail. And it's based also on, my experience on the Appalachian Trail from New Jersey through Massachusetts as well. The Appalachian Trail to me is in many ways an obstacle course. You have to look down, as I'm doing now, for rocks, roots, boulders, mud, anything that could be potentially risky, that could hurt, that could cause injury, a fall, what have you. It's hard to get a flow, a sustained flow of walking that allows you to look up and actually enjoy the surroundings fully, visually. So I have to be honest about that. That's a part of the Appalachian Trail that I am struggling with, this notion of an obstacle course, which seems to be, I think, a good metaphor. Well, I'm beginning day 2, leaving Condon Shelter, and I have a very, very short day today. Just about 4.2 miles, I think it is, or so, to Route 9, where I will be picked up, and we'll go into Bennington. Well, I obviously spoke way too soon when I was expressing appreciation for the trail after leaving Condon Shelter. It's been pretty much nothing but what you see here. Mud and deep mud. Not very fun. Just want to show you here that in addition to the mud and just water basically on the trail, there's a lot of tons of roots here. This is like a gnarled root section. Showing it to you here. I seem to have gotten past that. Very difficult. An extensive mud section and root section. This is a very lovely stretch here as I'm approaching Harmon Hill and Route 9. This is a lovely section here. If you look this way, you probably can't see it, but there's, in the distance, you can see the monument at Bennington and some of the houses. I like this sort of thing. A little bit open, maybe the fact that it's open. You get some sun here, not just the green tunnel, although it is a green tunnel in terms of how close the trail is to vegetation. But I think I'm reacting to the sun. I've found in the past it's very important, for my mood, it's very important to have sun. And here's the sign for Harmony Hill. So this appears to begin the what I believe is a very steep descent to Route 9, where I'll be picked up. Okay. That was a very challenging last half mile in order to get safely down to Route 9, which is what I'm seeing right here. I'm going to be picked up just in hopefully a few minutes by the owner of the Catamount Motel, who provides such transportation to hikers. Well, I was just dropped off by Pete from Catamount Motel. Does a wonderful service, transport service in the trail. Highly recommend that place. And I'm now beginning part 2 of this section of Vermont, of the state, which involves going from Bennington to Manchester. Lovely scene here. So, going to begin a very steep ascent for, I don't know, maybe a mile or so. Continuing up the steep ascent. Weather, by the way, is the same as the first 2 hiking days. Started off in the 70s, I'm guessing. I'm moving in the 80s. So maybe a little bit more humidity. I'm, definitely feeling the humidity. But again, just look at this beautiful day. Well, I'm entering Glastonbury Wilderness. If I remember correctly, this is considered one of the most remote areas in the entire Appalachian Trail. I'm not sure how they measure remote. I'm assuming they mean not having access to roads and so forth, but I believe it's about 8 miles stretch, so it's not like it's goes on and on and on. But I guess while you're in it, you're You're not going to see any civilization. Starting off very lovely. Well, this is the first sighting of mud all day. Going about 2.5 miles, I'd say. And now definitely a serious mud stretch. I'm going to need both hands for this with the poles. So I just took a break at the Hell Hollow Brook, got my water, had some lunch, and now proceeding towards Glastonbury Fire Tower. It's about 7 miles up. Well, I'm really enjoying this trail. Really total contrast from the trail leading up to Bennington. There's very little mud, and whatever mud there is absolutely no big deal whatsoever. And there's much more of a sense of spaciousness, as you can see here along the trail. You know, it's a beautiful day. You can hear the birds singing. You couldn't ask for more. Continuing to walk towards Glastonbury Fire Tower, about 5 miles away. I wanted to say that there's been some lovely breezes throughout much of the hike today, and that's something that, as I think about it, I barely experienced at all the 2 weeks I was on the trail last year, going through Connecticut and Massachusetts. So this is really a nice additional aspect of being here in Vermont. So just to point out, I am now leaving Glastonbury Wilderness, and I'm about a little less than 1.5 miles from the fire tower. So I think I'm about 1 mile away from the tower. The trail has recently gotten very steep, increasingly steep, and as always happens to me, once I hit maybe roughly the 9 mile, around 9 miles, my legs start to give, my whole energy starts to give. So it's becoming a bit of a real challenge here for me, just to keep those legs moving. But I'll do it. So this is a rather torturous stretch, very steep, very long. I assume that's obviously to get me to the heights, the overview of the tower, but boy, you certainly earn it. I have to confess I'm very disappointed that there's no view here, because I tried to go up. I went all of one flight and realized that with the open drops we can see down. You know, there's no way I'm going to go up all the way up there. I have a big fear of heights to start with, open heights, and this is completely open, so there will be no vista. I was looking forward to that. There has not yet been one vista or overview, viable one, yet on the 28 plus miles I've hiked so far from Williamstown to this spot. Disappointing. So just want to give a sort of a summary of my third day of the hiking. Although on the second day it was only four plus miles again to Bennington. And I want to qualify what I'm going to say. First, you know, it's always a pleasure to be out in the woods. These are beautiful woods, deep green. The trail today has been very good. There really has been very little issue with mud today, this whole stretch. But that said, so far it's been very disappointing as far as any other aspects of it. I mean, it is beautiful, and that's the given. But, you know, if you're looking for, which I was and still am, you know, nice views, none so far. Bodies of water. There's just been the one small beaver pond that you could see, and then we crossed another one on a boardwalk. So maybe if you want to say two on the first day, that's fine. But that's it. There really hasn't been any interesting, you know, any change in the landscape. Any you know, you're walking through the forest, period. You're not going through pastures or farmland or anything of that sort. And it's beautiful, but again, I'm a little disappointed with the lack of variety so far on the trail here in Vermont. And I know that's going to change, but looking forward to that change a bit, frankly. Something else I just want to add to my commentary from summarizing the first 30 or so miles, 25, 30 miles of the trail here in Vermont, in southern Vermont. What you see right here, this is a steep rise here, and there's been just, frankly, a series of going up and going down, kind of like an escalator, and not really getting anywhere in terms of getting anything, any reward, if you will, besides just the act of going up and down. Again, that's, you know, you sign up for that in Vermont, but so far, you know, it'd be nice if there was an occasional reward for these ups and downs. So this is Monday, July 29th, the fourth day hiking day on the trail. And I'm hiking out of Kid Gore Shelter towards a shelter about over 15 miles from here. Turns out that, yeah, now I got clarity on this so-called second most remote section of the entire AT. It runs from the Route 9 outside of Bennington, which I started at yesterday, and continues to a road I'm going to get to in about 8 miles. So it's about a 26-mile stretch with no road access at all. That's why they call it the second most remote section of the AT that I'm on now. Feel pretty good. The sun hasn't come out yet. Hopefully that'll happen a little later. We'll see. Just to add to that, the weather is humid today, very humid. Again, at the moment, it's kind of gloomy, no sun. And there's a very steep, long, apparently, ascent from Kid Gore Shelter. So things are going rather slowly at the moment for me. Well, about an hour and 15 minutes into the day, about 2 miles in, and the trail has, it seems, leveled off nicely after that initial 45 minutes of elevation. So yeah, right now we have a nice trail, and the sun is coming out, so that always improves my mood. Very green and beautiful also. Well, this is a welcome sight. It's a beaver bog, and it's welcome because it gives something new on the landscape besides the green tunnel, and it also gives us the sky, which literally has not been available because of the kind of the green shroud above us throughout throughout the trail in Vermont. So this is great. I tell you, I'm kind of amazed at the size of this, what they call a beaver bog. It's amazing what beavers, the impact they can have. I've seen that earlier in the trail as well. Well, you can see that the beaver dam is actually beginning to encroach, getting close to encroaching on the trail. Also, I just took a major spill. I slipped on a slanted rock and really gave myself probably a nice little bruise. first real fall of the trail. So I took a break at, I think it's called Story Shelter. I feel a lot better after that break. Had a chance to talk to some people. The socialization is very important for me. And now a very steep ascent immediately after the shelter. Hopefully not for too long. So now I have a little fall going, not as many boulders. Sun's out, lifting my spirits. This is the first really muddy, tiny section I've had in quite a while. Not a complaint, because overall the trail since leaving Bennington has been free of this kind of thing. So after just seeing that sign about black bear presence, this is like the first time in the entire trip that I've, for whatever reason, that I've really been somewhat concerned about them. I just was so focused on putting in my miles prior to that sign, but that sign kind of brought it to the forefront. Hello there. Yep. There you go. This is what a beautiful river and water site and bridge. Look at that nice feeling there. How about this for a lovely stretch with no rocks, roots, or mud? Very nice. So this is Kelly Stan Road, and this is the first time I can see the full sky in over 22 miles. I've been closed in by the canopy, the trees during this last stretch. So it feels great with the sun out in particular. It feels great. Back we go. So this is really steep. It's basically going straight up. Has been for a little while. And it looks like it's going to continue for some time. Okay. Well, I have to admit that I am exhausted. I still have a full mile apparently to ascend. This has been what feels like it has been a sort of a non-stop ascent for a couple hours, coming at the tail end of a long day. I'm hoping I didn't overreach a little bit. I don't know if I have time to just even to snack. I'm trying to get up here and then get back down to the shelter. So, check with you later. This is the second day in a row that I was thoroughly disappointed. You might call this one my fault if you want to. Thoroughly disappointed in that I was not able to see any vista at all. Today it's a beautiful day, just like it was yesterday. But once again, the fire tower bested me. This time I tried to acclimate myself. Went up one flight, no problem, but couldn't get up to the second sort of level. I just couldn't make it up there. I tried several times, just wasn't comfortable doing it. So just the faintest view of some peaks I was able to see from where I was between levels 1 and 2, but there was no way I could possibly have gotten up to the top level. I think it's something like 5 levels. So no vistas for me in Vermont so far. Well, this is beautiful though. Gotta keep my head focused on the present. Look at this. This is really beautiful up here. Well, after that brief, beautiful setting, and it's still beautiful the setting, but the trail has become a little bit of a river. I don't know why, but there's nowhere to walk that isn't full of water. Hopefully this won't last too long either. Well, I continue to go downhill from Stratton Mountain. I seem to have picked up a little bit of energy. I'm going down rather quickly, actually, after that initial slow stretch because of all the boulders and water and whatnot. This is a nice bridge and a beautiful stream. We got water from just now, 2 liters. And this is half a mile outside of Stratton Pond Shelter, and I'm headed now. It's just a few minutes after 7 a.m. on Tuesday, July 30th. This is by far my earliest start on the trail. I slept in the shelter itself, not in a tent, so that helped me with time. You don't have to break down the tent. I slept pretty good. I was happy with that. My body feels good. My goal today is to get to the Route 1130 and then take a drive into Manchester, Vermont. Lovely pond here, Stratton Pond. Lovely pond. It's great seeing such a nice body of water. Well, I'm now entering the Lye Brook Wilderness. Literally a stone's throw from Stratton Pond. So just want to say this is the 5th straight day of really nice weather. I don't think I could ask for more at this time of year. Heat in the middle of summer, temperatures have been very reasonable, probably high 70s, low 80s, and the humidity as well has seemed to be relatively low. So, and there's been no precipitation except for like a 2-minute little rain that happened at one point. This has just been weather-wise an exceptional trip so far. So I ran into a section hiker named Joe, also from New Jersey, and he was saying the same thing that I seem to always feel. I think it's inescapable as a section hiker, is the first couple of days on trail are very difficult on all levels. And it's such an adjustment. You just kind of throw yourself head first into the trail, and at least in my case, I can't, adjust to it gently with an 8 or a 10 or mile day. Too many of those anyway. So I pretty much plunge, for the most part, into the somewhat longer days, 12, 14, 15 miles. But I do try to weave in exceptions in the first week, like I did a 4 mile to Bennington, which is practically nothing, and then today's like 11 miles to Manchester. But the point is that it is definitely, every time you're a section hiker, you are going to experience an adjustment period on trail, and that affects not only your body, but your mood. Today I think as bright and positive emotionally as I felt on the trail so far. Just want to say the first couple miles out of the Stratton Pond shelter, really easy paths, very nice paths, not that many boulders, very, very little mud, nothing at all to concern oneself about, and able to get a real sort of hiking flow going here. Beautiful morning. Well, lesson to be learned in Vermont. You never have that much flow for that long when you're on the trail. There is always going to be, interruptions with the mud. But it's been okay overall. Crossing Winhall River. Well, I just saw a shocking and heartrending scene on the trail. First I passed a young boy, probably 8, 9, and he looked upset, and he was alone, sitting down. I asked if he was okay. He said his dog is dying. And after trying to comfort him as best I could, a few feet up the trail rather, I see several people hovering over a dog, and the mother is there with a couple of hikers, and then I approached the dog, and you can see it was obviously it's going to pass, probably, hopefully sooner than later, because it was bloated, and you can see it's just, I felt emotional myself about it, just not even knowing the animal or the people involved. It's sort of a very, very holy and special moment of passage, but it's also such a painful one to know you're going to lose a loved one. That's looking back south over the bridge. Continue, 5.8 miles left to get to Manchester. The Long Trail sign is there because the AT is the Long Trail. They're the same trail and, up until something like 105 miles into Vermont. So this road that I'm on, which I'll be on for I guess about a mile, is called Old Rootville Road. But if you look up, you actually see a clearing in the sky. Clouds. It is a beautiful sight. Rarely seen so far in Vermont, simply because of the canopy. The weather's been awesome. You just can't see the sky when you're in the canopy like that. But I'm enjoying this thoroughly. I just turned off of Old Rootville Road and beginning the first real ascent of the day. I don't know whether it'll be that bad. Probably not. It's been a very nice trail and very little elevation change so far. On the road, I noticed that there was a woman walking her dog, so I couldn't help but see a circle of life type of thing there with the dog that I had mentioned a few miles south on the trail. What was happening to that dog. For this last stretch of several miles before Route 1130, man, is it rooty. I've fallen, I've slid on a rock, I should say, and you have to be constantly vigilant. This is it, my first glimpse of the mountains since I've been hiking. Today is my 5th day of seeing mountains, green mountains, as I'm approaching Route 1130. So this is the problem that I'm having with this trail, although there's definitely good stretches. So here you have a nice view on both sides of the trail, but I can't really look up. Down here, every step, boulders or a whole series of roots, which slows me down. I don't know how other people navigate this. If they can get through it quickly, that's great, but I don't even think they're able to kind of do that while looking and enjoying the sights. That's something I'm struggling with, mainly, and especially in Vermont here, how often I have to have my eyes down and not enjoy the very scene I hope to enjoy by coming out here in the first place. So Route 11/30, because you get in a minute, traffic is very fast, so I'm not going to videotape that. I'm sitting here in Sutton's Place in a beautiful little town called Manchester, Vermont. I came in here yesterday, 2 days ago, and after doing about 11 miles to get into town. And then yesterday I took an entire 0 day, and I found by the end of last night, I was feeling a lot of resistance to going back on the trail. And I wanted to share that and why I have decided at this time to end my section hike of Vermont, pending possible future return. For me, hiking is yes, it's certainly partly a physical test and of endurance. That's what it has to be if you're going to do the backpacking, and especially in a place as tough as Vermont. If you're going to go from just your sedentary life and then as a section hiker just jump into the woods, as someone like I have to do, you have to really, there's a physicality to it that you're testing. But I also come for more than that. I come certainly for a certain type of experience of nature that has variety to it. I'll get into that in a second. And I come for an opportunity for reflection. Now, the problem that I experienced from almost the moment that I crossed the Vermont border through all the way here to Manchester, Route 1113, where the trail crosses and I came into Manchester, is that the trail was, I'll describe it with three terms. One, it is absolutely a green tunnel. You are almost entirely have it blocked on both sides of the trail with vegetation. Sometimes in certain sections that I went to, it was really close in. Sometimes you had a chance to look in certain other parts of it, to look a little bit into the woods, to get some sense of the woods, not just what's in front of you on either side. But there was certainly a very strong green tunnel. Second of all, something I did not even think about, there was a very almost impenetrable, what I call green canopy. There was almost no access to the sky. You knew that I happened to be blessed with great sunny days every day that I hiked. Very fortunate. But even on those days, you obviously saw that there was sunny, but there was no access to clouds or sky at all. I found that to be a real problem at a certain point. So you have the canopy, you have the tunnel. Then you have the problem with the vistas or beautiful overlooks. My walk went for 58 miles from North Adams to this spot on 58 trail miles. I really didn't see a single vista. The reason is that the two opportunities I had, which I'm sure would have been beautiful, would have required me to walk up what for me is a very steep staircases, to fire towers in Glastonbury and in Stratton. In neither case was I able to do that. I tried, but was not able to do it. So therefore, all the hard work of getting up those mountains, in particular Stratton, which was a beast, provided no quote-unquote reward in terms of view at all. That bothered me a great deal. So that for the entire 58 trail miles, I literally had one moment where I caught a glimpse to my left of the Green Mountains as I was close to Route 1130. There was a little opening that allowed me to see a glimpse of the Green Mountains from a relatively, not from a great height, but just to see the Green Mountains. That was the entirety of getting outside of the Green Tunnel for 58 trail miles. Lastly, and not least, the nature of the terrain. It was unrelenting for the most part, unrelenting in terms of the combination of mud, root networks, and boulders. What it does is it made it impossible to navigate it with a flow. I could not enter a flow of a stride, a walking flow, and therefore I could never be in a state of mind where I can either look up and then see whatever there might be to see, even just the trees to my left or right. I could not enjoy any of that without stopping, for risk of, if I continued to walk and not look down, I could hurt myself, I could fall, which I did several times. And number two, I had no chance to sort of get into the flow, a walking flow that would allow me to even reflect or just think about whatever might have been on my mind to think about, because every thought had to be focused on how to navigate my feet and my body from point A to point B, the very next step. Whether it was going over mud, if I had a way to do that, whether it was navigating over a root system, which often had pointy things sticking up that several times attempted to trip me, and once certainly did, whether it was navigating sliding rocks, one of which I slid down on with one foot and fell down. I once had a situation where I actually almost was forced to jump because of being tripped up in a way that I had to sort of jump over something. The point is, it was not conducive at all to anything but just sort of focusing on the step in front of you, the step in front of you. And that is not what I came out here to do. That is not enjoyable. That's not joyful. Am I able to physically do it, mentally do it? Yes, I've done now roughly 360 trail miles on the Appalachian Trail. I know I can do it, but this is not about me proving to myself that I can do it. It's partly that, as I mentioned earlier, yes, but it's got to be much more than that. So I'm stopping my hike for all those reasons, and I'm going to, step back figuratively and think about what my next steps might be as a backpacker, whether on the Appalachian Trail or in some other trails. I don't regret anything that I've done on this trail, and I do hope and expect that I'll be back, perhaps challenging myself to do smaller sections of the entire states that I've done up till this point. But anyways, so I'm certainly grateful for having had the chance to do this trail, and I also understand if people have a totally different reaction and just to what I just described, and just love being within that tunnel, love being within that canopy, enjoy the challenges of navigating, the rocks, aren't concerned about the vistas. And that's all subjective. Everyone has their own perspective, but I think I need to be honest to myself first and foremost, and to let anyone else who may watch this video and have never been to this part of Vermont, AT, know that this really is a very challenging section that may, or as in my case, may not be very satisfying beyond that.